So I wanted to cover my editing workflow and how I get all my videos produced on Linux and still using Kdenlive for my editing. I've been using it for a while. I want to do some more tutorials on it, but the problem is I don't do a lot of complicated things with Kdenlive, so I've been a little bit slow to get more tutorials out there. It's a wonderful video editor. It's really easy to use. It's very, very powerful, and I'm going to show you a little bit of like my editing setup and how I do things. Now I'm actually using right now OBS to record, so OBS is part of my workflow. I'm going to drag it in here so you can kind of see it. If you're not familiar with OBS, it's a pretty amazing program. It's free, it's cross-platform, so if you're a Windows user watching my videos and you go, how do you do your screencast and recording? OBS. You can use it in different platforms. Now I have it set up with different views, like middle screen, left screen, right screen, and then I have 3 screens without me in it and 3 screens with me in it with the webcam here. So I got the webcam at the bottom, and because you're seeing OBS, it's not behind something. You're seeing some recursion of infinitely looking down into it. I record all my OBS streams in the Yeti microphone that I have up here. Been using it for a while. You can pick up a Yeti for pretty reasonably priced. This is the THX model. I think you can find these under $100 on eBay. I bought this one slightly used. It still came in a box. It said refurbished. Never had a problem with it, and I got it. I won the bid really cheap on eBay for them. So they're a really high quality camera, great for doing these voice recordings. And if you want to do YouTube videos, having good camera or having a good microphone, really important. The camera is just a standard Logitech. I can't remember the name of it. C720, I think. You can. They're not expensive. Nothing real special about it, and some lighting setup. So back to the actually editing and workflow. So right now this is being recorded with OBS, but we're first going to start with a project that wasn't recorded, and it's one that was done with a series of videos that I took at a Chamber of Commerce event. So I'm going to leave it with all 3 screens pulled up. Now, something kind of strange about Kdenlive, when you are out of focus on it and versus when it's in focus, it has the 3rd window over here. So I'll play the little thing that I did here, and I'll show you what I did to create this. So in my preview clips are still here in the middle, but I drag it so I have a big high-res screen over there to view the output. So I want to be able to look at it in high res so I can kind of understand what it's doing. So this was a little car bash event they did, so then we got Marvin there. I threw the little title at the bottom, and then I cut while he's talking, so you have the narration here, and all these other clips are muted, so we create the whole effect. And what it's doing here is all the clips are named right in here. So I'll zoom into the middle screen now. And the way they got all these names was, and I just dragged them and dropped them in, I download all the clips right out of my camera. I play each clip and figure out which one's which one I should. So I had one that's called Bacon, Beer 2s. I took pictures of beer cans. The DJI ones, I don't need to name. I know DJI is my drone video. So I had 2 different drone shots that I included in this. And then I have one I labeled narration, and these 2, they were kind of useless, so they didn't even get named. They didn't even get dragged into the project. And then all you have to do from there, drag over the files, let them go on top of there, and then they're here. And then you can preview them and figure out, okay, where do I want to start? So I'm going to drag one way over here. And I just drag them in, and I'm going to go back to the 3-screen mode so you can see. And I drag and figure out, okay, where's it going to start? And then I put that at the bottom tracks. That's going to be for the narration part. So that's this bottom track that you see here. And with the bottom track, that's the whole narration. Then each one of these, I drag the mute over to. So like I have this one, the effect is mute. And the way you drag effects on there is really easy. You just go over here, mute, and it'll double up a effect if you want to apply effect twice, because at 2 different ratios or anything like that. That's easily supported in Kdenlive. So I mute all these other top ones across here. This is the title clip, and then the title clip is just their logo for the Chamber of Commerce that we put on top. Now this is where, when you're doing the interaction, to make sure it kind of, let me put it to 3 screens so you can see the preview, or I'll just put it, there we go. So I wanted it to fade over here, so it kind of fades in and out. and then fades away. Now, there's a little trick to doing that when you're setting up the fades, when you want some of the things to come over the top on there. And the way I'm doing that is the dissolve is what I'm doing. So I did a dissolve, but you have to choose what it interacts with. So it's interacting with video 2 because video 2 is over the top of the narration video, but on the last part I have it interacting with video 1 because I want it to dissolve into that video because they're at different layers on there. So you got to make sure that, so this one dissolves there, this one dissolves there. Pretty easy to do. And then with the title clips, they are, I didn't name this one because there's only one, but there's multiple title clips where I want to put and overlay things on there. You just take and drag a PNG in here. I'm sorry, not drag it because it doesn't support drag and drop, but you add image, find the PNG, which I threw in there. Their logo is actually a PNG on their website. I just downloaded it and throw it in there. But you can use any other tools to create and manipulate the photos. Put the PNG in there, and then to give it some contrast, I just drew a rectangle with the rectangle tool up here. So you could just add a rectangle, and then you can set the color of the rectangle and the alpha blend on it. So I didn't want a solid rectangle, I wanted a semi-transparent, and then I wanted it underneath, so you can go up here to the top where it says Z-index and hit down, and it puts it at the very bottom. So let me cancel, I don't really want to make that change to this. So it's pretty straightforward, and then you just drag a few fades in here. So I fade between all the different cuts as it goes through. And Marvin, you know, is doing the narration at the bottom. And when he mentions something, so I listen to the narration, and where he mentions things, I add at that point a shot of it. So he talks about the beer available at this event. So we cut to the beer scene. You know, other time it's when he's not saying anything that's visually relevant because he's talking with his hands a little bit. Then I'll reference back to the drone shot, and that's what these are here. So I can reference the shots I got there. He mentions the word bacon, so I reference to the bacon shot here. So it's pretty straightforward when I'm doing the editing, and you know, it's not real complicated. So I haven't done a lot of tutorials. It looks a little bit complicated, but all you do is drag it across timelines and doing there. I don't really do much more than some dissolve fades and things like that. It's just to get the point across, because you know, there's plenty of people who are really good at editing and really talented, and they do some amazing stuff. I just really haven't taken the time to do that because as long as I can get my YouTube videos done, I've kind of stopped and go, okay, that's good enough for now. Maybe I'll learn some advanced stuff later. Now, I'll show you a little bit of how we do the OBS ones. So when we do the OBS ones and say, nope, we're not going to save any changes on here, you'll notice that the video is split. And the reason why, and if you can see this, it says offset 5. There is a 5-frame delay to get the audio synced up with this. And the way you do that's actually pretty easy. So I'm going to start a new project and show you what this, and the 5-frame delay is because I run at 30 frames a second, and when I record with OBS, it seems to cut the audio. I've played with the delay settings inside of OBS. Didn't work. It's not. It's easier to split the audio. So when I first get something done in OBS, I have my OBS folder here where it records things. We'll drag. See which video is this one. Yeah, that's the one I did. So I drag it here, and then you right-click on the video, and you're going to say split audio. And then it's quicker if I use the mouse and control to zoom in all the way. However you want to zoom in, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to ungroup the clips so they're now 2 separate entities. And then I count frames, 5 frames over, just drag this, and I know it's a 5-frame offset. Now that's just going to vary based on your system, your setup, your computer, but this is how you split the audio out if you need to for OBS, because it's annoying if the voice isn't synced up with what I'm doing. That's a weird thing, like watching someone talk but the audio's off. It is really annoying. I've accidentally done it a couple times when I publish videos, so I try to be very conscious and do this. So once I have this, and then you select the clips again, hold the control key to select both clips, and then I go ahead and group the clip back together. Now the reason you group it is because I'm going to start slicing and dicing in here. So I go to the cut tool and I'm going to slice out the beginning because I'm saying nothing. I just usually let it, you know, start to roll in, get myself composed, and start playing the video. But other times, or maybe another clip, you go, I don't want this in here. So you take that out. If I didn't have it grouped, I would be having to line up and drag this, especially if I did something like this and put another video in between or anything like that. You want to make sure that this stays aligned. That's why I did the grouping of the clips. So it's pretty straightforward for editing like that. And most of the time when I'm doing these tutorial videos, you know, on firewalls or anything like that where I'm using OBS as a screen capture, I just go in here and clip out things that are irrelevant. I watch the peaks and say, okay, can I cut this out? If I really paused or it's one of those things like, okay, I just got to take this part out. Now, another thing I do, maybe you notice, maybe you don't, I leave long pauses when I screw up, and then I cut it out and try to remember where I left off. And I think I get it pretty accurate, but part of the quality testing I'm doing is going through here and making sure that, okay, is that good or not? Like, okay, I screwed that up, I said this wrong, so I'll leave a long pause so I don't have to start the video over, and that's how I know that's the edit point. The other option is going through and writing down the minutes and seconds of when I did something. The hardest part about that is when you start clipping things out of the beginning, you've now offset the minutes at the end. So kind of my recording tip, I do screw up. I don't just rip these, well, sometimes I do, if I get lucky, rip them in one set without any pauses, without any stopping, without any breaks. But a lot of times, there's pauses, there's breaks, there's me pausing to make sure I pull up a screen off to the other side and look at the specs. I sometimes put a couple notes if I have to read detailed specs or like a CV vulnerability or some really specific detail that I want to make sure I'm accurate on. I'll actually pause, and I got my phone in front of me, and I'll look at the phone, read the number again, and I just leave a pause in there, and that way I know I cut out the pause, cut out me looking at the phone, and keep the video going. Also, if you sneeze or something like that, this is helpful. Just leave a long pause, makes it easy to find in a video. And I know there's at least one long pause towards the end here, I think in this one. Maybe not. But I just look for those. That way you can just quickly find the spot that you paused and cut it out for editing without having to start the whole project over. So that's kind of the basics for how I get the video done, how to make the video recording. Nothing real complicated there. The next thing we do is I'm going to grab a screenshot of things to build my thumbnails, because in YouTube it's important to build good thumbnails because you want them to be contextually important, not just randomly generated, because YouTube will pick a frame and and then let you choose, but that's not the best way to do it. And I used Photoshop for the longest time, and I'm still not a big fan of Gimp, but I got good enough at Gimp in order to make this happen. So I bust out my trusty screenshot tool. Let me pull it up, put it over to the right window here. And I grab a screenshot of whatever we're doing. So I'll pull one of these up. So this is just a screen grab from it. So when I'm editing, and let me put it back in 3 screen for you real quick. So I say, okay, maybe I want that screen. You'll see it over here on the right. And then I just use the screenshot tool. And I have it set on a timer on purpose, and I'll show you why. And now that has grabbed a screenshot of that. And then I can quickly edit the screenshot if I need to do something in here, like, put an arrow or something, things like that. This is now the first piece of it, so I grab a screenshot. Now, the other time the screenshot tool is really handy, and the reason it's on a countdown is if I have to show you a menu for something. So if I wanted to show you the control menu here, we are going to go ahead and grab a screenshot, and I want to grab it of this, enter, and a delay reaction of the reason I have it set to a 2-second timer is so then I can grab a screen grab of something like a menu or a context menu. This helps on websites where I want to show something in motion, so to speak, and you hold it open to give you the idea of that it's there. So that's kind of the reason for the delay. Other things is so the mouse over, when you do drag it over, doesn't get kicked off, and that can be a pain in the butt too, like a mouse over on a YouTube video where you get the tile. I only want a screenshot of the YouTube video instead of the play button and things like that. So by doing it and letting it fade for 2 seconds, it'll fade out the tools on there. Now, the other way I do this is, and I'll grab a window and drag it over here, is, needing logos for things and stuff like that. So Google logo. And we just do a quick image search. So if I'm talking about a company, I can just grab their logo from them. This one's animated, I don't want an animated one. And I can either use a screen grab, or we're going to show you how I do this in Gimp. So let's open up Gimp real quick. So I pretty much don't use Gimp for anything but this. So here's the clip I made for that Citron research video. And everything's just a series of layers. So I don't touch these top layers that I have in here. Let me make sure the webcam's out of the way. These top layers up here, I don't really mess with. So we're going to go ahead. Well, this one I see it says Citron exposes. That's the text layer. This is my logo. This is a bottom template, and then here's the clipboard 1, clipboard 2. So we're going to purge that clipboard. And if we want to edit the text, I just go down here. My video editing workflow. We'll actually do this video. Why not? Well, I can't really do the screen grab for it. Well, I could do some things. I'll do a couple things here to give you an idea. So using Linux and Kdenlive. I gotta spell things right. Using Linux, we need some commas in here. Linux and comma Kdenlive, comma Gimp, comma what's the screen tool? Shutter. So I'll finish this. I'm just gonna make sure you guys have an idea. Now, along the way, in case it crashes, seems to be pretty stable, but it doesn't crash often, so I'd save that. Now, occasionally I want to put more things in here, so we're actually going to downsize the text a bit like this, and put the word using here. Then I'll go down the bottom, using Gimp and Shutter. Pretty much the tools I use for almost all of my videos and editing. Oh, we got to add OBS in here. OBS, put a comma. All right. Now, eventually, I got to go pull the logos for those things. I kind of, like I said, I like having the logos on there. And this is where it gets pretty easy for doing this in Gimp. And normally I do this on my split screen. I'll just keep it all on one screen for you. But let's say we want the Kdenlive logo. Kdenlive. View image. And it's a PNG file you can see here. So we're just going to go copy image, go over here to Gimp, edit, paste as, new layer. Simple. Really easy to do. Now this is where it gets a little confusing. Normally I'm used to Photoshop where I can just grab bars around it and resize it. You have to use the scaling tool in Gimp. And then by default the scaling tool isn't synced. So I want it synced so if I do scale it, I don't want to screw up the logo like that. So I'll do this, we'll do this, and then I can adjust and scale it so it doesn't skew the logo into some unusual sides, and I click scale, and away we go. Then I gotta go back over to this tool, then I can manipulate it, move it around wherever I want. So, I'm just pasting each one as a new layer. So I don't have to download it off the internet or anything like that, which is actually pretty handy. So I can just go here. Now we're gonna grab the OBS logo. Like this one, it says Open Broadcast Software. Copy image, edit, paste as new layer. Oh, if someone knows a shortcut key to paste as new layer, let me know. Because I see how it there. Control-Shift-V pastes it, but it doesn't do it as a new layer. It doesn't do what I want it to do. So, yeah, that. So, one of those little details. If you know some shortcuts, if I'm doing something and you know, hey, Tom, there's a better way. Like I said, I'm still learning Gimp and still getting better at it. I want to keep everything in Linux as much as I can because Photoshop, really easy to do this, and I could do things so much faster in Photoshop, and I'm putting some effort in here to learn Gimp. So then we get the OBS logo, Shutter logo, but you get the idea that you go through here, and then that's how I create the thumbnails. Now, the other step that's going in there, paste this new layer, move this down here. The other step is exporting it. Now, it saves it in a format that's a GIMP format, so you're not able to do that. And I don't save my thumbnails like you see. If you see the name at the top here, it's YouTube 2017 template gimp.xcf. That's the GIMP format file for that. It's 1280 by 720, which was the recommended, as I understand, for 2017 size for a thumbnail for YouTube. And so when I'm done, I export it and I title it Workflow for Editing in Linux, and I just drop that to my data drive. I have a bunch of different folders and things like that, but I drop it right to the data drive and hit export. Yep, and standard PNG format when it's done. And then when I do my YouTube upload, I go through and, render the video, export the video to the video folder, and then this. I don't really keep a lot of my, I don't keep any of the templates. Like once I edit this and I edit and save over again, I keep the output results because they're not that important. I rarely go back to a thumbnail and go, oh man, I want to redo this thumbnail. So I'm not big on save. I used to save all of them, and then I realized I just had piles and piles of everything, and I'm like, this is useless. The same with the videos. Right now I'm only keeping about 6 months of source. So the source material that went into it, unless it was a special project that I think is worth saving, most of my videos I do not keep the source for lack of knowing what to do with it. I was archiving it, and then you're creating terabytes and terabytes of data, and I'm almost like, I got, I'm very big on redundancy. So if I'm going to save it, I save it everywhere. I make double copies. And then when you have like 9 terabytes double copied, you're like, I now have a hard drive collection. And what am I going to do with all this source footage? I save only the output footage of editing. And one of the reasons why is, for example, when I do my larger projects with clients that go on for, maybe a few months, like a big wiring job, we end up with, and it's one of those funny things, we're producing a huge volume of data with all the time-lapse cameras. But it's not all useful. We just shoot it all, and then I organize it all and say what's worth keeping, and the rest of it you kind of scrap, because sometimes the camera looked at nothing for a long time, or it just was not interesting, it wasn't worth adding to the video. So I come back to it and I go, yeah, this isn't really worth keeping. So that was a lot of what my source footage would be. So yeah, hardly became worth duplicating all of that. Now, a little piece of my workflow, though, that is going on actively because of the fact that some of these projects take weeks to complete, all of my video folder on my local computer is synced up with SyncThing to our RAID array just for all my videos. So even as I save this, it's resyncing it. As I rendered out any of these videos, it's resyncing it on there. As I download cards, it gives me confidence, because a lot of people have done this where they download a card to the computer and they go, all right, now I'm going to use this card again. Somewhere in between, before you get around to editing, before you get to back up the hard drive data on your computer, now you don't have either. You're like, crap, I lost it all. So in fear of that, because my computers, it could be a single point of failure, it's just constantly, as my computer's running, syncing everything to the server, so I don't have to think about it. So I don't mind dumping a card and reusing it. And I have several cards. I try to hold on to them until they're edited, but sometimes I got more stuff to shoot, and it's going on for weeks. So that's kind of the general editing workflow for this. And then when I'm done, I just, upload it to YouTube, which I don't think I need to show you how to do that. that part's the easiest part of all this. But you can see quickly, you can build these little templates. And this is all open source. This is all, Kdenlive, Gimp, and Shutter running. I'm running this on Kdenlive, but you can run this on Ubuntu or most any other Linux distribution of your choice, and it'll run pretty smooth on there. I've really been happy with how it works in Kdenlive, or KDE Neon and Kdenlive. The themes seem to work really good together, and it's been just smooth as silk. The latest iterations of Kdenlive have become very, very stable. Like the software, all the editing work. I used to be like a religious saver, clicking save all the time, and I don't have to seem to do that as often because it just doesn't crash like it used to. But that's it for kind of my workflow and how I get things done. I guess I could show, I got another one of how to clean up audio in Audacity. I'm not going to get deep into Audacity in this video. I have another video already covered doing some of the audio cleanup. But if you have a good microphone, not much of a need for it. The only time I've ever had to do audio cleanup is when something gets messed up and there's like some background noise that has to be edited out. Then I will break out Audacity for that. And but I did a separate video already on, so I'm not going to cover the topic again. But pro tip on Audacity is you can actually, it supports drag and drop, so you can actually take the video you edited and drag it right on top of Audacity, and it'll import just the audio. Then you can process it, export it, and in that video I believe I left the script, and I'll leave a link below to it, that you can re-merge from the command line and put them back together. Or you can, if you want, split out audio and then import it back as a second track. So I had some audio that was really tricky to edit, so I actually pre-processed the audio in Audacity and then merged it back together in Kdenlive. And you can drag audio files in Kdenlive, and they work just fine. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the editing I do. If you have questions, comments, or you think you'd like me to expand more on one thing, other than the little tutorial I gave you, that's my basic usage of Gimp. I have not gotten much better than that at it. Yeah, it's a lot for me to learn still, because after using Photoshop for at least 15 years, maybe longer, probably longer. I think I started Photoshop, yeah, it's 2017, so I started learning Photoshop like 99, 98. So after spending that many years in Photoshop, it's not that it's GIMP, just it's a very different environment. So I've done everything I can to make it a little bit more photo, like find all the equivalencies, and that's usually what I do. Is I start with how to do this in GIMP, like Photoshop, and some of the YouTube searches. There's a few YouTubers out there that have some great GIMP tutorials that are really well done, and they know GIMP very, very well. So look for those if you're finding. You can usually find a good tutorial on GIMP of how to get something done. And but this is the basics of. I figured out how to do the layers. I figured out how to right-click and drag in there, so I can quickly create the thumbnails and get processing done. This also allows me to get videos done really fast, because I don't have to spend a ton of time jumping between virtual machines like I did before with, okay, I got to spin up my virtual machine just so I can run Photoshop, so I can get a thumbnail made. You know, anything that adds to my workflow time, cuts down time that's just not as productive. So, but happy to get it all in here. All right, well, thanks for watching. If you like the content here, like and subscribe, and have a great day.